You're watching the Dallas Cowboys Report by Chat Sports. I am Tom Downey. It's a mailbag. Alexander Warburton, would you re-sign Cedrick Wilson if Tolbert and Fehoko don't show up? If Cedrick Wilson is cut, I would like to sign him, sure. I'm not trading for him. He's due $7 million in salary. That's a hard pass. The Dolphins have chopped him. No one's taking on that money right now. But if Wilson gets cut, and especially if Tolbert and Fehoko don't emerge as reliable 4 or 5 options, then yeah, I would have no issues bringing back Cedrick Wilson as receiver 4, 5, whatever it ends up being. From Mark, wouldn't you have picked O'Cyrus Torrence over the Titans? So that's O'Cyrus Torrence, guard from Florida, and Luke Schoonmaker, tight end from Michigan. And yes, I would have. Look, I do all of my draft stuff leading up to the picks. It is all done before the draft gets going. So all of my opinions and reactions are really bore out of general draft viewpoints, not specific Cowboys stuff. I liked O'Cyrus Torrence a lot. I thought he should have been a borderline first-round pick, not a borderline second-round pick. But the Cowboys did not feel the same way. They were not high on Torrence, and I don't know if he was even that highly ranked on their board. For whatever reason, they didn't like him. We got word of that early on. I kind of gave up my hopes for him there, but yes, I would have taken him. From Rick Kellican, will Tolbert shine or fade away into the abyss for the boys? Hopefully the former, or at least the middle ground between that and the latter. The Cowboys don't need Jalen Tolbert to be a legitimate wide receiver 3 yet. They need him to be a receiver 4 who can sub in as a wide receiver 3 in the event of injuries. Does that happen? I hope so, but I'm not so certain. The Cowboys have hyped him up. He was just overwhelmed last year for whatever reason. So hopefully in year 2, he's more comfortable, he's more at ease, Dak trusts him more, and he can become that 4th option. Otherwise, next offseason, going to be searching for a wide receiver yet again. All right. Of all the players currently on the Dallas Cowboys, who is your favorite player? Get those votes in for me at the pinned comments of today's show. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there. Let me know who your favorite player on the Cowboys is. $5 from Past. I'll give you a shot after the mailbag wraps up, my friend. Hell, you wrote me in. How does Stephon Gilmore look? Hashtag real one, hashtag chat sports. Thank you, Past. I appreciate the super chat there. It's only been OTAs and minicamp. There have been no pads, but looks like he hasn't really lost a step. Now, maybe the pads come on and that changes, but looks like he can still be a really good veteran number 2 corner. I'm excited for him this year. Last year, cornerback 2 was a mess all season long with injuries once Anthony Brown went down. Should be more stabilized this year. Trenton, would you have had interest in signing DeAndre Hopkins at the price he did? Yeah, of course I would have. I think, frankly, there would have been a lot of teams who, if you had told them at the beginning of the offseason that was going to be the cost for DeAndre Hopkins, they would have had interest. I think the timing really hurt. Like the Ravens, for example, would have done the DeAndre Hopkins deal way before they would have done the Odell Beckham deal. I will say this though too. The Cowboys are giving Brandon Cooks from their pocketbooks $6 million this year and $10 million next year. That's it. That is a pretty, and then I guess $4 million dead money later. But that's 2 years, $20 million. That's still less than Hopkins got. The picks maybe change your mind a little bit. But I think Dallas wanted Cooks over Hopkins in general. $15 from Mark. So we will do some more shots here after the mailbag ends. Thank you, Mark. Don't sip water. Sip some Jack, my friend. It's actually, it's not Jack. It's a different type of bourbon that also starts with a J, but not a sponsor. Hope the family as well. They're doing great, my friend. Thank you for asking. Any real news on Tolbert, Cox, or Gallup? No BS hype news. Eli and Manning with Super Bowl, so can Dak. JJ and his clown show seem to F things up. Yes, those are the two. The only constant has been the Jones boys. That's your constant there. Real news, The Cowboys are more confident about Jalen Tolbert, but that's based on minicamp OTAs. Jabril Cox, again, per head coach Mike McCarthy, seemed like things went pretty well there. As for Gallup, he says he's more confident. I got to see him getting some contact because he just did not look right last year. So we'll have more real news around training camp time. So, make sure you guys are subscribed. That way you don't miss out on any of our videos here at the Cowboys Report. Food review is back. By the by, if we're 7-1 or et cetera, what mid-season trade target are you going after? It depends on. It's funny. If you're 7-1, is there a position you need? Because if you're 7-1, I'm going. Maybe our concern spots are playing well. Maybe your linebacking core is in good shape. Maybe you don't need an RB2 behind Pollard. Maybe your O-line is held up really well. I would want to know who's on the trade block. So, is Isaiah Simmons available in Arizona? Is Budda Baker available in Arizona for a half-season rental? Is there an injury that you suffer on your roster? Without knowing that, it's tough, but there will be players, and we will have videos on that for you once we get there, I promise you. So make sure you guys are subscribed. We are almost out of the dead period. We are almost out of the doldrums for the NFL season when the draft ends. There's like 2 weeks-ish of excitement and because the schedule comes out, and then all of a sudden it's down to nothing and there's nothing going on. There's some minicamp OTA buzz, then that's over, and there's until training camp in late July. We're almost out of it. We still got videos for you every single day, so make sure you are subscribed. Hell of a username here. The Evil Mr. Tinkles. I don't think I've ever seen this one before on the channel. I want to look at QBs in college and see what the Cowboys get in the first round in the next few years if we move on from Dak. What do you think, Tom? All depends on when you're drafting. If in some scenario you get the number 1 overall pick, I'll say it, and I think we would all agree with it. By Dak, it's Caleb Williams' time. You're taking him, and you're building around the next young, great quarterback in theory. I think Drake May out of UNC is a really good prospect. I haven't gotten too far into the 2025 classes there. But in general, not always, there are always exceptions. But if you want to feel confident about your quarterback pick, they've kind of got to be in the top 10. And I think the best way to do that would actually be to move on from Dak early, tank for a year or 2 if required, and then draft your quarterback. That's why my mindset is let's be aggressive now, because if it doesn't work, you're going to want to blow it up in a few years anyway, and at that point, all that dead money doesn't matter in the short term. From Mark, $5 super chat. This has to be our year, he says. JJ will wait too long to extend Dak, and $50 million will be $55 million. We have both corners to re-sign with CD, Hankins, Parsons, and our right tackle. I don't think they're going to keep Hankins. Now, if they do, it'll be a cheap one-year deal, so it'll be fine. But you're right. You want to pay Dak. You want to pay CeeDee Lamb. You want to pay Micah Parsons. You want to pay Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland, etc. Terrence Steele. So I get that. The nice part is you've cleared off some of your bigger contracts on your books, so it is doable. But the Cowboys are in a decent spot to potentially go out and acquire and still be competitive. So I would like to be aggressive. I'll also make this point too, Mark. I know you're not as big of a fan as Dak. As long as he's playing at a top 10-ish level, you should be able to have a window open to be in your championship prime. So with that in mind, predict the Cowboys' record this season. What will it be? Are they going to win 11 games? Are they going to win 12 games? Are they going to win 13? Are they going to go undefeated? No, probably not. They're only going to win 9 games. Get your record predictions in the comment section right now. How are you feeling about the Dallas Cowboys this upcoming season? Do a few more questions here, then we can end on that playoff games weigh-in, producer Chris. Do the Cowboys have the best defense? If not, what changes do we need to make? I think you have one of the better defenses, and I think the level of move to get above, like that, the number 1 is probably a pretty big splash, or like a young player emerges. I think the one thing you're missing is that 3 technique, which is tough to find, by the way. I'd say tougher to find than even a corner in the modern-day NFL. Can you get one of those guys? Great. I'm not sure who it is, though. $2 from Mark. Tom for GM. Hankins is a must. No depth on the defensive line. Maybe one of those recent draft picks, Junior Fehoko, Chauncey Golston. I'm kind of giving up hope on Neville Gallimore. Maybe one of those guys emerge. But yeah, I think you're right. Depth on the D-line is a bit thin. You should be able to maybe spend some draft picks on that spot in recent years too. From Gangsta Big Chungus, maybe draft Arch Manning. So it kind of goes down to narrative, right? The only reason we are talking about Arch Manning is because of his last name. That's the only reason anyone's discussing him. We're not talking about anybody else as a true freshman quarterback being a top 5 pick, but it's Arch Manning. If Arch Manning is the guy that we think he can be or could become, or his last name suggests he can become, he's probably going to be a top 5 pick, right? So again, you have to be drafting in that range to make it worthwhile. Mark says, I meant DT, Neville, Osa, and Golston. Hell no. I don't mind Osa Odigizua, but I need a breakout year. Those guys are fine, especially Odigizua and Golston on their current contracts. You're not paying them very much. But I want that next step forward out of Odigizua to be going from like an okay rotational piece or a good rotational piece at times along the defensive line to, can he be a disruptive nightmare? He's going to get a bunch of one-on-one matchups. He needs to take advantage more. Golston does your dirty work. He's fine if he's your D-line 4, cool. But you better have better 1, 2, and 3s. Neville Gallimore, not feeling too great about him right now, unfortunately, because I liked him a lot coming out of Oklahoma. All right, prediction time. How many playoff games will the Dallas Cowboys win? Get those votes in for me in the comment section right now. Remember, folks, if you have not already, please subscribe to us here on the Cowboys Report. 476 was last month's number. Let's beat the last month number. We'll spend some time here. We won't jump into the Tony Pollard cut quite yet. We'll just check in on the overall status with about 20 minutes to go. I feel quite comfortable saying the deal will not get done. I also think it's going to get done for Saquon Barkley. So 20 minutes. This is your chance for Super Chats. What's going to happen here is we will do any Super Chats that come in. We will check in on any Super Chats that come in. We'll check in on latest on Tony Pollard, check in on Saquon Barkley, and then in about 15 minutes, we will call it for Tony Pollard. I don't think a deal gets done. 73% are voting no from that standpoint. All right, from Lone Wolf, what about Quinn Ewers? So the path in which Quinn Ewers becomes a first-round pick is that he plays really well this year, right? That is the path. And in that scenario, doesn't he probably go top 10? Like, I don't think Ewers is going to turn pro early and be, in theory, like a pick 23 to 25 range. I don't really foresee that coming. So, again, if he's good enough to be taken in the first round, you probably got to take him earlier. That's kind of why my mindset is bottom out and take a new QB or be aggressive with your current guys.